A 7-year-old boy drifted on a stormy sea. He was wrapped in a life jacket. He floated past the corpse of his own mother. A rescue ship pulled him up. His relatives were on the phone at a party. The relatives were drunk and casually offered the mercenaries an extra $1 million to finish him off. That is what family looks like in this story. Skip ahead to a packed corporate boardroom. Suits and cameras filled the room. A $1 billion vote was in progress. Then the chairs themselves exploded. Ceramic bombs were baked into the cushions. Executives launched across the room like popcorn out of a microwave. The company also employed a feared enforcer. He was a gray-haired legend. This man had been ending careers and lives for 30 years. He went toe-to-toe with our hero on the 81st floor. Then his head rolled across the executive marble. The cherry on top was a grinning maniac in a designer suit. He took a glass vial of poison and bit down on it like it was candy. He crushed it with his teeth in front of everyone. This is that kind of story. Rewind all the way back to the start. Before he became the boogeyman haunting a $1 billion corporation, he was just a kid. He wore a life jacket and stayed alone in the dark. He watched everything he loved sink into the sea. Meet Jin Taiha. He was about 7 years old. He was the only grandson of Jin Xiako. Jin Xiako was the founding chairman of the Chiangu Group. This was one of the biggest industrial giants in South Korea. The family had massive influence and owned a private yacht. Tonight, the yacht was out on open water. A storm rolled in and rain hammered the deck. Our little guy woke up in his cabin because he heard a noise. He walked out and his world ended. Mercenaries were everywhere with guns drawn. There was screaming and gunfire. He ran and slipped on the wet deck. He saw his own mother floating face down in the black water. She was dead just like that. He was frozen and crying. Then a hand grabbed him. His grandfather was riddled with bullets and bleeding out. The old man was somehow still standing. He dragged the boy to the railing. He yanked a life jacket over the boy's head. He pressed a small black fountain pen into his tiny palm. The grandfather told him to remember who he was. He told him to remember their family. Then he shoved the boy overboard. The yacht took the last few bullets and sank. The storm swallowed the screams. That was the end of his childhood. Hours passed as little Taiha drifted. He was half dead and his teeth chattered. His arms burned with salt water. An Italian ship showed up in the fog. It was not a rescue vessel. On board was the Salerno family. They were the real mafia. They fished him out and wrapped him in a blanket. He was shivering but alive. Someone on the crew called Korea. They reached the family lawyer named Kim In-soo. He was the person his grandfather told him to trust. He was the last lifeline. Kim In-soo picked up on speakerphone. There was loud music and laughter behind him. Taiha sat on the deck and heard his own lawyer. The drunk man offered the crew an extra $1 million to kill the kid. Little Taiha did not cry or scream. Something in his eyes turned to concrete on that deck. He looked up at Regina Salerno. She was the woman running the ship. She was sharp and calculating. Taiha did not beg for his life. He asked for a knife. They gave him one to see what a 7-year-old would do. The boy took the blade and carved the Salerno family crest into his hand. He did not flinch, despite the blood. He pledged his loyalty in perfect Italian. His grandfather had made him learn every language a proper heir should know. He asked the family to teach him everything. Regina Salerno realized she found a new prodigy. 17 years passed. The little boy on the deck was now a grown man. He stood 6 feet tall and was trained in controlled violence. He learned blades and guns and business from the Salerno family. He carried twin tactical knives at his hips. His code name was Vendetta. He was the executioner for the family. He was born with white fast-twitch muscle fibers. This was a rare genetic lottery ticket. When his life was on the line, he moved like a blur. Only 1 in a million people had those fibers. He had them in every muscle. Now he was back in South Korea with a clean identity. He had a list of targets. He wanted every person who touched his family. This included executives and mercenaries and relatives. He planned to erase them with his 2 knives. His first stop was the family memorial hall. His relatives held annual ceremonies for the dead there. They showed fake tears and public grief for the shareholders. Meanwhile, they ran the company they stole. They had a security hit squad on standby inside. Vendetta walked in through the front door. The squad recognized his face and drew their weapons. That was a bad idea. Vendetta exploded across the room with his twin knives out. The first shooter lost a wrist immediately. The second shooter took a blade through the throat. The third guy fired and missed. Our hero was already behind him. It happened so fast the memorial candles did not flicker. Bodies lay on the marble. He walked up to the family portrait. He placed 2 fingers on the frame and then walked out. A car was waiting in the parking lot. The trunk was already open. Kim In-soo was tied up inside. The lawyer had duct tape on his mouth. He finally recognized the boy after 17 years. The grown man was extremely calm. Vendetta ripped the tape off. Kim In-soo babbled about money and deals. He offered to pay 10 times the amount. Our guy just tilted his head. He dumped a duffel bag of cash over the lawyer. It was $1 million in banded stacks. This was the exact number Kim In-soo once bid for the boy's life. Vendetta closed the trunk and stepped back. He flicked a lighter and the car went up. The man who sold him out paid every dollar back. Interest was measured in degrees Fahrenheit. Our guy adjusted his cuffs and walked into the city. There was much more work to do. His next target was a man named Jin Chong. He was the acting chairman of the group. He was the puppet master behind the betrayal. Our hero needed to find the corporate calendar. That calendar was kept inside a company called AH Holdings. This was a shell company used to hide ambitions. Vendetta raided the office at night. He went floor by floor and remained silent. Guards dropped before they knew he was there. He found 3 captives in a back room and cut them loose. Then he moved to the top floor. He sought the senior executive who knew the calendar by heart. The executive was at his desk and sweating. Vendetta walked in and sat on the desk. He placed the tip of a tactical knife against the man's eye. He asked for the time and place of the next meeting. The executive spilled everything. Our hero remembered every detail without writing it down. He stood up and walked out. The executive fainted from the stress. 2 targets were down and the list grew shorter. Later that night, our hero walked into a convenience store. He wanted a pack of cigarettes at the 24-hour store. He grabbed the last pack and turned around. A tall man with purple hair stood there. He was also looking for cigarettes. Our hero realized this stranger was dangerous. This man was on the same level as him. He handed over the pack and walked out. The purple-haired man was named Cheon Heeman. He was a warrior of the Osang faction. Our hero followed him at a distance through the back streets. Rain started falling in a quiet alleyway. Cheon Heeman stopped and turned around. He knew he was being followed the whole time. He asked if the hero was sure about this. Our guy just drew his knives. Then the alleyway disappeared in a blur of steel. Blades clashed, sparks flew. Steel screamed on steel. Heeman was fast. He was insanely fast. He pulled his own blade so smoothly that it seemed to appear from nowhere. He slashed for the neck. Vendetta ducked under the blade. He came up inside the guard and drove a knee up hard. Heeman spun off the blow. He disengaged and reset his position. Both men separated and looked at each other. Both fighters felt impressed. Round 2 began. Vendetta went low while Heeman went high. They met in the middle in a spray of sparks. 6 exchanges occurred in maybe 2 seconds. Then a 7th exchange followed. Our hero read the angle a hair earlier than his opponent. His offhand knife slipped past the guard. The point rested at the throat of Heeman. Silence followed. Rain fell. Heeman just smiled and nodded. He conceded the fight. He could feel the tip of the blade. He knew exactly what would happen if the man wanted it. Vendetta lowered the knife. He said that a pack of cigarettes covered the debt. They were even now. He walked away. Heeman stood there in the rain. He let out a long breath. He just met somebody he might not be able to beat. That was a very new feeling for a man like him. Meanwhile, our guy lit his cigarette. He used the own lighter of Heeman. He lifted the lighter during the exchange. Naturally, he disappeared into the neon light. He earned style points everywhere. This story loves to cut between our hero and people facing a bad week. Jin Chong was busy doing his own things. Specifically, he finalized the coup he started 17 years ago. One person remained in the family who could pull rank. That person was his own father. His father was the last old guard relative from the original bloodline. He still held real authority. This weekend, the father threw a private family dinner. The event was at a secret annex in the Gangbak district. The dinner was very quiet and private. The facility had reinforced walls and trusted guards. Only the inner circle attended. No outside eyes watched the gathering. Jin Chong showed up smiling. He kissed cheeks and hugged the uncles. He sat down at the table like a loving son. Halfway through the appetizers, he remained smiling. He pulled out a pistol. He put a bullet through the forehead of his own father. Blood spilled on the tablecloth. Silence fell at the table. The guards remained frozen. They did not know if this was a test or a mistake. Perhaps it was just a normal Tuesday for him. Jin Chong wiped his mouth with a napkin. He tossed the gun on the table. He said the chairmanship was now settled. He asked if there were any objections. Nobody spoke. He nodded and smiled wider. Then he ordered dessert. That is your antagonist. That is the guy our hero is coming for. Feel free to root against him extra hard. He earned that hatred. But a surprise was coming. On this exact night, Vendetta was closing in. An executive from AH Holdings gave up the location. Our boy waited outside in a stolen car. The engine was running. The convoy of Jin Chong pulled into the annex. Our hero floored the accelerator. He drove straight through the front gate. The car plowed through the security post. It crashed through a barricade and into the lobby. Guards scrambled as the car hit. Vendetta bailed out mid-crash. He rolled and came up with both knives swinging. The lobby turned into a slaughterhouse in about 11 seconds. He moved to the dining room next. Then he reached the hall to the private wing. Jin Chong heard the screaming. He saw his men going down like dominoes. The smile of Jin Chong faltered for the first time. He grabbed the closest guard by the collar. He sprinted for the roof. His emergency helicopter was already spinning up its blades. He almost made it. As the helicopter lifted off, Vendetta reached the roof. He launched into a jump. He caught the landing skid with one hand. He swung himself up. He punched through the passenger door with a knife hilt. He came face to face with Jin Chong. This was their first meeting since the storm. Their eyes met. Jin Chong recognized him immediately. There was no doubt. He saw the ghost of a family he thought he buried. For one full second, the maniac actually looked scared. Then Vendetta buried a knife in his shoulder. He twisted the blade. Jin Chong screamed for real. Bodyguards inside the cabin opened fire. Our hero took several rounds. One bullet clipped his rib. Another bullet grazed his side. He was bleeding hard but did not let go. He dragged Jin Chong halfway out the door. Then a bodyguard aimed at his chest. The guard pulled the trigger. Our guy lost his grip because of the blood loss. He fell from the aircraft. The helicopter roared off into the night sky. Vendetta fell a long way into a stream below. Everything went black. He woke up on a couch. His head was pounding. His ribs felt like they were on fire. A bullet wound was already patched and bandaged. He was very much not dead. A silver-haired kid sat across from him. The kid was in his early 20s. He had a thin frame and a giant grin. A laptop was balanced on his knees. The kid said that Vendetta was extremely hard to fish out. His name was Huang Gray. He was an information broker. He moved data through the dark web very fast. Gray pulled Vendetta out of the water because of a hunch. Gray also had a personal grudge. He hated the Chiangu Group. His father was a whistleblower who tried to expose them. The company staged a car accident that killed his father. Gray had been quietly building files. He was waiting for a weapon. Now a weapon just fell into his stream. Gray hauled him to a safe place. It was a back-alley restaurant run by Aunt Nana. Warm lighting filled the room. Steam rose off the pots. The air smelled of garlic and spices. Aunt Nana was a former medical professor. Now she worked as a chef. On the side, she ran underground surgery. She looked Vendetta up and down. She sighed like a mother scolding a teenager. Then she dug the bullet out of his ribs. She used a spoon-sized instrument for the surgery. Vendetta sat perfectly still. He ate her stew with his other hand. The alliance was sealed with a bowl of soup. They shared a bullet in a jar and a handshake. Now they had targets to hit together. Gray pulled up a name on the laptop. The name was Kim Pil-jong. He was a broker. He moved information between executives and cleanup crews. Kim Pil-jong knew who would die a week early. Every Sunday morning, he went to confession. He visited a big downtown cathedral. He used the same booth at the same time. The priest was on the payroll of the broker. This was the perfect setting for a chat. Vendetta pocketed a fresh blade. Aunt Nana handed him a clean coat. Gray handed him an earpiece. Our hero walked out into the morning. His broken rib was strapped up tightly. The bullet hole was barely closed. He had a quiet appointment with a corrupt broker. The cathedral loomed ahead. Bells were ringing. Massive wooden doors stood open. Sunlight cut through the stained glass. He stepped inside. The air inside the cathedral was cool. Incense drifted through the space. A choir hummed softly. A few ladies sat in the pews. A row of wooden confessional booths stood along the side. One booth had a little red light on. It was occupied. Our guy slid in on the other side. He sat down and adjusted his coat. He spoke in a nice, calm voice. He asked for a blessing for his sins. Silence followed on the other side. A slow voice said the booth was private. Vendetta smiled. He slid his tactical knife through the little grate. The point went right against the throat of Kim Pil-jong. He said that the room was now very private. The broker froze in fear. Word travels fast in dirty circles. People knew about Vendetta the ghost. They knew about the freak with the twin knives. The knife was against his neck. His shirt was wet from sweat. Our hero asked 3 questions. He wanted to know who approved the yacht hit. He asked who ran private security now. He also asked where the Black Ops money flowed. Kim Pil-jong gave up everything quickly. He provided names and bank routes. He gave it all up in about 90 seconds. He wanted to keep his throat. Vendetta nodded along and memorized the data. Then he told the broker to send regards. He mentioned his grandfather. Then he drove the knife through. The red light on the booth went out. The corrupt priest smelled trouble. He ran out of the back sacristy. He screamed for the security team. 20 guys appeared. They were actual thugs. Some wore cheap suits or leather jackets. All of them carried pistols or blades. They poured out of side doors like cockroaches. This was a big mistake. Our guy had a broken rib and a bullet hole. This did not slow him down. He became more efficient. He did not waste a single motion. The first 3 thugs went down immediately. He was inside their guard very fast. He used a blade under a rib cage. He used an elbow to a temple. He used a boot to a knee. 3 bodies dropped in the same second. Then he wove through pews like water. A shooter fired a weapon. He ducked behind a wooden bench. Wood splinters flew. He came up behind a pillar. He hurled a knife across the nave. The blade caught a guy in the throat. He yanked a candle stand from the floor. He swung it like a baseball bat. He hit the jaw of the next guy. Teeth flew everywhere. He finished the last 5 men near the altar. Blood stained the marble and the glass. It covered the collection box. He wiped his blades on a curtain. He tipped his hat at the shattered priest. He walked out through the front doors. The church bells hit noon. He was as casual as a Sunday morning. Back in the kitchen, Gray watched the footage. He used a grainy body camera on the lapel of Vendetta. Gray stuffed noodles into his mouth. He did not stop chewing during the fight. He had the time of his life. Aunt Nana refilled the tea of our hero. She told him not to pop the stitches. He grinned and tipped the tea back. He winced because he definitely popped a stitch. Now the story moves across town. Jin Chong had just landed. He was alive, but his shoulder was patched. He was extremely angry. He limped out of the helicopter. He was on the roof of a 5-star hotel. The Osang faction held private meetings there. The Osang are one of the 5 power blocks. They are an old-school criminal syndicate. They had been asking questions about the ghost. Their boss was a gentleman named Dushil Park. He waited in a cigar lounge. The room had velvet furniture and whiskey. Cheon Heeman stood behind the boss. He was the convenience store swordsman with purple hair. He was part of the Osang faction. He never told anyone he lost. Jin Chong sat down. He put on a fake smile. He said there was a rumor about a dead man. He wanted the Osang to help him. He wanted the man to stay deceased. Duchil Park sipped his whiskey. He asked what Jin Chong was offering. Jin Chong slid a folder across the table. It contained big numbers. He offered access to shipping routes. He offered import channels. The Osang had always wanted those channels. Heeman glanced at the folder and at Jin Chong. He said nothing to the men. His fingers tightened on the back of the chair. He knew who they meant. He already knew this deal would not last very long. Duchil Park says he will consider it. Cigar smoke curls up between them. Standing off to one side of the room is the man who scares even Jin Chong. His name is Baek Junu. He is the head of security. He has gray hair and a face like a chunk of granite. His eyes have seen every possible way a human being can die. He is the personal enforcer for Jin Chong. However, he is really the enforcer for the entire company. He is loyal to the Chiangu Group. He is not loyal to any one chairman. Junu watches the whole meeting without moving. He is performing math in his head. The math tells him something Jin Chong will not like. The young man on the helicopter with the twin knives will be a problem. Corporate stability problems always go through Junu. He decides quietly in the cigar smoke to handle this loose end himself. He will do this long before Jin Chong even asks. This information will matter a lot in about 10,000 words. The scene cuts back to Vendetta. He is healed just enough to move properly. His ribs are taped and his wound is stitched. He holds a coffee in the back booth of the restaurant owned by Aunt Nana. Gray spins his laptop around to show him the next target. The target is Hong Ingu. He is the director of a hospital owned by a Chiangu shell company. On paper, he is a respected physician. In practice, he signs off on accidents for people the corporation wants to disappear. He also has a nasty hobby involving human torture in his basement clinic. He is an unpleasant man. He is well protected by constant bodyguards and a private elevator. He has a direct line to Baek Junu. People consider him untouchable inside his own building. Our hero likes people who are considered untouchable. Later that day, Director Hong finishes his medical rounds. These rounds mostly involve screaming from a locked room. He walks out to his private elevator. His 2 bodyguards step in with him, and the doors slide shut. He hits the button for the penthouse. He checks his phone and yawns. The elevator hits floor 2. The lights flicker. When the lights come back on, both bodyguards are on the floor. They are silent and not moving. Their necks are at bad angles. A man in a dark coat with 2 blades stands in the back corner. He was not there 30 seconds ago. Director Hong opens his mouth to scream. Vendetta is already behind him with one arm around his chest. He holds a blade at his ear. With a precise flick of his wrist, he makes a move. The ear drops to the elevator floor with a soft, wet slap. Director Hong finally screams loudly. Then he begins to choke and whimper. A hand covers his mouth. A very calm voice speaks into his other ear. The man tells the doctor they will be seeing each other every day for a while. He explains exactly how this will work. He is planting a global positioning system tracker under the skin of the man. He is also memorizing the daily schedule. Every single day at a random hour, Vendetta will appear out of nowhere. He will drive a knife into a different part of the thigh of Hong Ingu. This will not be lethal. It will only be excruciating. He will do this every day until he decides the loose end is worth tying off. Then he pulls the emergency stop for the elevator. He rides the roof up and drops out through the shaft. He is gone. The doors slide open on the penthouse. Director Hong is on his knees and sobbing. He has only one ear. His bodyguards are dead around his ankles. Building security comes running. They find a man who was once feared reduced to a whimpering puddle on the floor. The daily stabbing schedule starts the next morning. He wakes up in his own bed and feels the pinch. He screams for security. Nobody sees anyone enter or leave. There is only fresh blood on his sheets and a new hole in his thigh. Karma has never been more punctual. Meanwhile, life at street level reaches our hero back at the restaurant. The neighborhood is called Jiangsu. It is basically a lawless zone. It is an old redevelopment district that the government forgot. A local street faction called the Yaburi rules the area. They are a small operation. They deal in extortion, protection rackets, and low-level muscle. The Yaburi have been leaning on Aunt Nana for months. They show up every couple of weeks to break a chair and demand cash. She has been paying to keep the peace. She has injured people upstairs and does not want thugs or police sniffing around. This afternoon, 4 bruisers from the Yaburi stroll into the restaurant. They are loud and cocky. One of them flips a table over just because he can. Another one dumps a bowl of noodles on the floor. He tells the woman that the rent is due. Aunt Nana sighs. From a corner booth, our guy speaks without looking up from his coffee. He tells them to sit down or leave. The 4 men turn toward him. The lead bruiser laughs and points at him. He mocks the idea of a hired bodyguard. Everything happens in a blink. Vendetta puts his coffee cup down and moves across the room. He hits the first bruiser with a straight punch that folds him in half. The man drops to the floor, twitching. The second bruiser tries to swing a stool. Vendetta takes it away and hits him with it. The third man pulls a knife. Vendetta locks his wrist into a spiral. The man ends up with his own blade in his foot. The fourth bruiser is the biggest of the group. He just stands there frozen with shock. Our hero grabs him by the collar and walks him outside. He throws him into the street and tells him to bring his boss. The boss shows up 1 hour later. Her name is Yunsori. She is the second in command on paper, but she runs everything. She has a slim build, sharp eyes, and long hair. Her signature weapon is high-intensity Kevlar wire. She threads it through her fingers like an invisible harp. She can slice a lamppost in half with the right pull. She has cut people who never even knew they were bleeding until they collapsed. She walks in slowly and sits across from Vendetta. He mirrors her movements. Aunt Nana pours them both tea like this is a normal Tuesday. Yunsori speaks first. She notes that he embarrassed 4 of her men. Vendetta sips his tea. He says they have been squeezing an old woman who fixes people. He calls this behavior low even for her group. Then he tells her the truth. He says the Yaburi do not actually own Jiangsu. Every apartment complex they think they run is owned by a shell company. These companies are owned by the Chiangu Group. He tells her the government ignores the district because Chiangu wants the land condemned. They want to buy it for pennies later. The Yaburi are just the mess they use to keep it condemned. Her people are unpaid janitors for a corporation. The company plans to bulldoze them once the job is finished. Yunsori becomes very still because this fits the facts. She remembers every strange order and every eviction that never made sense. She stares at the man and asks why he is telling her this. He smiles for the first time. He says he is about to burn the Chiangu Group to the ground. She can either be the janitor when the fire is out. Alternatively, she can hold a torch when it starts. Yunsori considers her tea. She picks the torch. They shake hands and lock in a second alliance. Now our guy has a street faction on his side. They know the neighborhood like the back of their hand. They can move Kevlar wire through crowds without anyone noticing. This will matter very soon. The Chiangu Group will soon notice that the district is no longer compliant. They will send something scary to fix it. Meanwhile, our hero decides to pay Director Hong a proper home visit. Gray has cracked into the smart home of the director. He pulled the floor plans of the luxury estate on the edge of the city. It is a bunker with panic rooms and a full staff. There is also a wing labeled as a menagerie. Vendetta reads the word and repeats it. Gray just shrugs and says rich people are strange. Our boy takes a bike and rides out. He slips over the estate wall easily. He bypasses the outer security by walking through the servant's entrance in a chef's uniform. He stole the uniform from a delivery driver 2 hours earlier. This is efficient and stylish. The inner security is much heavier. Guards with rifles patrol in pairs. He drops them silently through a hallway one by one. He moves through the mansion like a rumor. He reaches the door to the menagerie and pushes it open. He smells something strong and animal. He steps inside and sees 2 full-grown lions. They are loose and not in cages. This is a cruel joke by Director Hong. His menagerie is actually an execution room. He drops people in here when he is bored. The door has a delay lock designed to trap anyone who walks in. The lions crouch and prepare to pounce. Our guy is not in the mood for exotic pets today. He drops the coat and pulls a suppressed pistol. He puts a round through the skull of each lion before they can jump. He steps over both of them without breaking his stride. He did not come here to deal with petting zoo problems. He clears the rest of the wing and finds a secret ledger. It contains names, payments, and bribes. He finds a file on every corrupt medical inspector in the country. He also finds photos of Baek Junu meeting with foreign military contractors. The files contain contracts, names of operators, and code words. He photographs everything with a phone given to him by Gray. He slips back out through the servants' entrance. Sirens start wailing in the distance. Somewhere in a bunker, Director Hong is watching the cameras. He is weeping and his thigh is throbbing. The man who owns his life is walking out with his secrets. Back at the restaurant, Gray is going through the photos. He whistles at the military contracts. A private outfit called Black Tech is on retainer. They are attached to the Chiangu Group. They are being paid to sanitize the neighborhood of Jiangsu. This means they are coming to kill everyone in the district very soon. Vendetta and Yunsori sit down together. Aunt Nana closes the restaurant early. Gray spreads maps out on the tables. Yunsori calls in her underboss named Hu Yong. He is a giant of a man who could lift a small car. He is loyal to Yunsori like a brother. They have 36 hours to prepare for war. They spend those 36 hours turning the district into a trap. Every alley is wired with Kevlar threads at neck and knee height. Every rooftop is stocked with blades and smoke bombs. They mark every evacuation route. They move civilians out through the sewers to a warehouse. Gray sets up a signal jammer network to fry drone communications. By the 35th hour, the neighborhood looks normal. Underneath the surface, it is a meat grinder. At the 36th hour, a low mechanical hum drifts in from the north. It is not from helicopters or trucks. It is higher pitched and there is a lot of it. Everybody on the rooftops looks up. The sky is filling with dots. These are small tactical drones. Each one carries an explosive charge. There are hundreds of them in a swarm. They drift over the district in a coordinated formation. Gray taps his laptop. He says he does not have enough power to jam this many. Vendetta pulls both of his blades. Yunsori flexes her fingers. Huyong picks up a large lead pipe. In the streets, every soldier clicks a safety off. The first wave of drones dives toward the ground. The district lights up. Explosions punch through walls. Fire rolled down the alleys. Yunsori stood on a rooftop. Her hands moved so fast her wires sounded like a hive of angry bees. She sliced drones out of the sky, 10 or 12 at a time. Every snap of her wrist cut 3 or 4 machines at once. The display was beautiful, terrifying, and efficient. Huyong worked down at street level. He batted drones out of the air with his pipe. He looked like a child smashing piñatas. Every time a machine got close, he planted it into the ground. Sparks flew as metal crunched. Vendetta cut through side streets and tossed shaped smoke bombs into intersections. These blinded the incoming drones. He vaulted through the smoke to slice them out of the air. However, there were too many enemies. The group could not win this battle by swinging alone. Vendetta yelled to Gray over the earpiece to find the command van. Gray was already searching. He knew every drone swarm needed a mobile command hub. He triangulated the signal quickly. Gray reported the hub was 2 blocks north. It was a yellow delivery truck that was not delivering anything. Huyong heard the call and grinned. The big man loved a good breach. He dropped his pipe and sprinted north. He bowled through 3 drones that tried to intercept him. He let them explode on his shoulders. He wore so much homemade body plate under his jacket that the shrapnel just plinked off. He reached the truck and ripped the back door off its hinges. Inside the truck, 6 black tech drone pilots wore virtual reality headsets. Their jaws dropped in surprise. Huyong started throwing them out of the truck one at a time. The pilots hit the pavement hard. Yaburi soldiers on the street caught them and put them down. Huyong smashed every terminal in the truck with his bare hands. The drone swarm became useless instantly. Half of the machines dropped out of the sky like dead flies. The other half started colliding with each other. Yunsori used her wires to clean up the leftovers in about 90 seconds. The northern half of Jiangsu was on fire, but the swarm was dead. Huyong hopped out of the command truck and brushed sparks off his sleeves. Yunsori jumped down from the rooftop. Her wires retracted into hidden spools on her wrists. Vendetta walked out of the smoke with both knives dripping. They started to breathe again. Then, a 4th silhouette appeared on a rooftop at the end of the street. The stranger was a tall man with a flapping cloak. He held a long, dark blade loose at his side. A carved wooden mask covered the top of his face. Nobody heard him arrive. Nobody saw him enter the area. Gray went very quiet on the communications line. He eventually whispered a single word into everyone's earpiece. He said the name Aswang. The name meant something important. Aswang was a code name in the International Killer Registry. He was a top-tier threat. He occupied the same elite level as Vendetta himself. His real name was Jerome, and he was a global freelancer. He worked only for people who could afford entire national economies. Nobody knew who hired him, but the team could guess. Jerome hopped off the rooftop and landed in the street without a sound. He pointed his blade at Huyong because Huyong was closest. Huyong cracked his neck and stepped up to the challenge. However, he did not last long. Jerome moved like liquid. His blade was longer than the pipe of Huyong by 2 feet. During the first exchange, Huyong took a slash across the chest. The blade carved through his armor plates like they were cardboard. During the second exchange, Jerome opened a gash down the arm of Huyong. By the third exchange, Huyong was on one knee. He was bleeding hard but continued swinging. He was that kind of man. Yunsori sprinted toward them while her wires whistled. Jerome flicked her wires aside with one motion. He slapped her back into a wall. Then, he raised his blade over the neck of Huyong. He met the blade of Vendetta in midair. The crack was loud enough to hear 3 streets away. Sparks flew in the smoke. 2 ghosts remained locked at the tips of their blades. Jerome tilted his head. Vendetta smiled a very small smile. He had been waiting to hit somebody who could actually make him work. They acknowledged each other by their code names. They stepped back at the same time and circled each other. The burning street went quiet. Then, they exploded into each other. The rooftops became their arena. Jerome kicked off a burning car and launched onto a low rooftop. Vendetta chased him. They landed on tin siding at the same second. Steel met steel as sparks flew sideways over the district. Jerome slashed for the neck. Vendetta ducked and came up under the swing. He used twin blades to stab for the ribs. Jerome twisted his torso an impossible amount. The knives skimmed past his coat. They separated while both men grinned. This was bad news for everyone else within a mile. During the second exchange, Vendetta went low first. He used a low knife feint and followed with a real high strike. Jerome interpreted the move a hair late. He took a shallow slice across the cheekbone. This was the first blood of the fight. During the third exchange, the longer reach of Jerome snapped back. Jerome cut a line down the forearm of Vendetta. The wound was not deep, but it served as a reminder. They continued through the fourth, fifth, and sixth exchanges. They chained across the rooftops of Jiangsu like two comets. They jumped fences and kicked off water tanks. They slid down slanted tiles. Every clash of blades threw off a burst of sparks. This light revealed their faces for half a second at a time. It looked like a lightning storm hopping across the district. At street level, Yunsori patched the wounds of Huyong. Gray watched the fight on stolen drone feeds. He was shocked by their speed. Gray had never seen two humans move like this. This was a battle of pure talent against a career international executioner. Slowly, Vendetta started to pull ahead. Jerome was world-class, but Vendetta had something Jerome lacked. Regina Salerno had raised him. Every step of his life had been a training ground. Every dead relative on his list was a knot in his back. That knot only tightened when a real threat appeared. Every second he fought Jerome, he remembered that helicopter door. He remembered the feeling of slipping. He remembered falling. He remembered the sound of the dead face of his mother against the water. When the memory kicked in, his body responded. During the seventh exchange, Vendetta moved faster than Jerome could track. The blade of Jerome swung through empty air. Vendetta was already inside his guard. One knife hooked the blade of Jerome at the crossguard. The other rested point first against the wooden mask. Silence fell over the rooftops. Jerome breathed out slowly and nodded once. He knew he was defeated. He opened his mouth to speak, but he never got the chance. A shape hit the roof between them like a purple thunderclap. Chon Heeman landed right there in their space. His blade was already drawn. Heeman did not look happy. He looked like a man who arrived at a party where he was not invited. Heeman ordered both of them to stand down. Vendetta raised an eyebrow. Jerome took a very careful half-step back. Heeman was not there to fight Vendetta tonight. The Osang faction had realized something. Someone in the corporate war had hired an Aswang without permission. That was a violation of the rules. These rules held the five great powers in balance. Heeman was sent to manage the situation before the balance collapsed. He tossed a small metal cylinder onto the roof between them. Heeman apologized to his friend. Then, Heeman closed his eyes. Vendetta recognized the device as a flashbang and turned his face away. The world went white. When his vision cleared 3 seconds later, Heeman and Jerome were gone. There was not even a rustle on the rooftop. That was the style of the Osang faction. The rules were restored, but the score remained unsettled. Vendetta lowered his knives and stared at the empty rooftop. He let out a slow, long breath and laughed quietly to himself. He knew he was going to win that fight. Heeman knew it too. That was why Heeman had to remove Jerome. Vendetta hopped down to the street. Yunsori finished tying the shoulder of Huyong. Gray packed up his laptop as sirens drifted in the distance. Jiangsu was scorched, but it was still standing. The group had won the first round. Now it was time for the real move. During the drone attack, Gray had been working in the background. He used the smart home credentials of Director Hong to log in. He accessed the Chiangu Group corporate network carefully. He grabbed the proxy authorization of Director Hong. In 6 days, the Chiangu Directorate would hold a meeting. This was the 81st board meeting. All the top executives would attend. They planned to vote on the new formal chairmanship. This was going to be the coronation of Jin Chong. Director Hong was registered as a proxy voter. Anyone with his pass and biometrics had technical clearance to enter. Gray forged the biometric skin patches. Aunt Nana stitched a tailored suit for Vendetta. It hid 2 blades and a slim pistol. Yunsori and the Yaburi locked down the district. Huyong hugged him goodbye like a big brother. On the morning of the meeting, Vendetta walked to Chiangu Tower. The tower was a 50-story glass skyscraper in Seoul. The marble lobby was the size of a soccer field. 200 armed security guards worked on rotation. There were metal detectors, facial recognition cameras, and blood scanners. Sniper scopes watched from the surrounding rooftops. Vendetta walked up in a black suit. He dropped the proxy pass on the counter. He pressed his palm to the biometric plate. The patch from gray worked perfectly, and the screen turned green. The receptionist smiled and waved him through the security. 200 armed guards did not stop him. They could not because he was authorized. He was a director-level guest. Corporate security worked that way. The strongest walls did not matter if someone had a key. He rode the executive elevator up alone. He straightened his tie and winked at his reflection. The elevator reached floor 81, and the doors opened. The boardroom was big enough to land a plane in. 30 seats surrounded a long wooden table. 27 seats were already filled with powerful people. There were old men in $8,000 suits and sharp-eyed women. Jin Chong sat at the head of the table. His arm was still in a sling. He smiled as if the vote were a mere formality. Baek Junu stood behind him with a granite face. Everyone looked up as Vendetta walked in. The members were confused because they expected Director Hong. Our hero pulled out a chair and sat down casually. He spoke calmly in a board-appropriate voice. He said that Director Hong sent his apologies. He explained that the director was indisposed. He told them to continue the vote in his stead. The smile of Jin Chong froze. He remembered this face from the helicopter incident. Baek Junu shifted his weight slightly. His hand moved closer to a concealed weapon. Around the room, board members muttered. Something was very wrong, but procedure was followed. The proxy had passed all the checks. They called for the vote to proceed. They went around the table one by one. Every executive voted for Jin Chong. They were rubber-stamping the smiling man. Finally, the turn came to Vendetta. Everybody looked at him. He tilted his head. He smiled a very small smile. He stated that he would abstain for now. He wanted to hear the opening remarks of the chairman-elect first. Jin Chong's smile returned. It was ugly. He thought he saw what was happening. He believed this was a shakedown. He thought a nephew with a grudge was trying to embarrass him at his own coronation. Jin Chong believed he could spin the situation to his advantage. He stood up and opened his mouth to speak. Then, the chairs exploded. Every single executive chair blew up. Ceramic charges were baked into the seat cushions. They were shaped to fire upward. Every board member who was sitting when the trigger fired took a lethal cone of ceramic shrapnel. The shrapnel traveled straight up through their bodies. There was instant carnage in the room. Blood hit the ceiling. Screams were cut short. 27 bodies were gone in an instant. This happened because somebody had planted these bombs. Someone had access to the boardroom. This person wanted the entire directorate wiped out. That person was not Vendetta. It was Jin Chong. This made sense. He was a smiling maniac who was willing to shoot his own father at dinner. He was absolutely willing to blow up his entire board. He wanted to erase every rival power center in the company in one move. The vote was never his actual goal. The vote was only an excuse. Jin Chong wanted every single one of these old vultures dead. This ensured no one was left to challenge his authority. He assumed Vendetta would be sitting in a chair too. He expected Vendetta to be blown up as collateral damage. Then nobody would ever know Vendetta was even alive. Jin Chong stood at the head of the table. He was untouched by the blast. His chair was the only one not rigged with explosives. Baek Junu stood behind him. He was also untouched because he had been standing. Vendetta was also standing. His white muscle fibers kicked on the second he saw Jin Chong stand up too smoothly. Vendetta was out of his chair a half second before the charges blew. His coat was already flaring. His blade was already drawn. He stood on the boardroom table with twin knives in his hands. Smoke curled around his ankles. 27 dead executives lay around him. Blood dripped off the light fixtures. Jin Chong stared at him across the ruined table. For one long, beautiful second, the smile was gone. Then Jin Chong laughed loudly. He threw his head back like a hyena at a slaughterhouse. He called Vendetta his cousin and noted that he lived. He said it was wonderful. Then he told him to die properly this time. Jin Chong snapped his fingers. The boardroom doors on every side burst open. Chiangu security flooded into the room. There were not 50 guys. There were not even 100. Every guard on every floor between here and the lobby was called up on emergency broadcast. They carried rifles and wore body armor. This was the full corporate army. Baek Junwoo stepped around Jin Chong. He was slow and deliberate. He reached under his coat. Junwoo pulled out 2 blades. They were twin longswords. They were perfectly balanced. They were polished so clean they did not reflect the blood on the walls. Junwoo spoke for the first time in the whole scene. His voice was low and almost gentle. He called Vendetta the young master. He promised his grandfather he would keep the company standing. He would even protect the company from him. Vendetta's eyes narrowed. That title of young master cracked something open inside him. This was the man who used to carry him on his shoulders when he was 5. This was the man who taught him how to hold a wooden practice sword. Baek Junwoo was supposed to be family security. Instead, he let the family die because the company mattered more. Baek Junwoo was never the dog of Jin Chong. He was the dog of the Chiangu Group. The group decided a long time ago that the child heir was inconvenient. Now they had a problem. But that problem was not for right now. Right now the room was full of 200 armed guards. Our boy had a broken rib scar and a healing bullet hole. He had one goal. He wanted to walk out of this building alive. He would come back for Junwoo later. He glanced at the wall behind him. He clocked a certain badge on a security uniform. It was a different insignia. It was not a standard tower guard. These were Team Black. According to the intelligence from Gray, Team Black was complicated. They were elite Chiangu security. Their founding captain served under Jin Xiako personally. They were the original guard of the grandfather. Baek Junwoo quietly purged the loyalists years ago. However, he could not fully clean out Team Black. They were too embedded in the organization. They kept their heads down. They served Jin Chong on paper only. Their oath was still to the original bloodline. Vendetta locked eyes with the Team Black lieutenant across the room. She was a woman with a scar across her jaw. Her name badge read Ozra. Vendetta did not say a word. He just lifted his left hand and showed her the palm. A Mafia crest was carved there. Under that was another mark in older scar tissue that never fully healed. It was the Chiangu family sigil. His grandfather carved it into his palm as a toddler. The grandfather did it as a joke. It was a family thing. The boy would always know he was one of them. It was the smallest scar on his hand, but the most important one in the room. Ozra saw the mark. Her eyes went wide. She put 2 fingers to her ear. She tapped a code word into the Team Black private channel. Every single Team Black guard in the room spun around. There were 20 of them all across the perimeter. They opened fire on the rest of the security force. Chaos followed. It was absolute chaos. Guards were shooting other guards. Jin Chong ducked for cover. Baek Junwoo snarled. Vendetta launched off the table in a full extension. He crossed 10 feet in the air with his blade first. He aimed right at Jin Chong. Junwoo intercepted him. He held his twin longswords up to block the killing shot. Vendetta rolled off his guard. He kicked Jin Chong hard in the face on the way past and landed behind him. Jin Chong stumbled back with a split cheek. He was still laughing. He was a genuinely broken human being. Team Black closed ranks around Vendetta. Ozra grabbed his elbow. She told him they had to go now. He nodded but looked over his shoulder at Junwoo. Junwoo had 2 long swords and gray eyes. He was waiting for him. He was not chasing. Junwoo could catch him if he ran. Instead, he was letting him go. He wanted Vendetta to know exactly where the fight would happen. Vendetta understood this. He told the old man they would meet later. He saluted with a knife. Then he and Team Black broke for the emergency elevator. They stacked into it and the doors closed. Bullets pinged off the metal doors as they descended. They went down floor by floor. At every stop, more security waited. Team Black fired as the doors opened. Vendetta threw blades. Ozra covered them with a rifle. They fought down through the tower like an elevator arcade shooter. They passed floor 60, floor 40, and floor 20. Blood was on the mirrored walls. 2 Team Black members were down. Then a third fell. Ozra was shot in the shoulder, but she kept firing. The elevator dinged at the lobby. The doors opened on a war zone. The lobby was full. Every reserve guard from the parking garage had been called up. There were 200 men. Every gun was trained on the elevator. Vendetta examined the situation. There was no way through this. Even with white muscle fibers, he could not win. He had 3 wounded Team Black members. He would surely die. Suddenly, a delivery van crashed through the lobby service doors. The doors flew off their hinges. Tires screamed. The van plowed into the guard formation and scattered them like bowling pins. It was a Chiangu delivery van. The model was old and slightly rusted. The driver kicked the door open. He was a mountain of a man. He stood 6.5 feet tall. The man had a scarred face and silver-white hair and a tight tail. He wore an old military coat. 2 revolvers were already in his hands. Even with age lines, he looked strong enough to crush a car. Ozra whispered the name Guang-Su. He was the legendary former co-president of Chiangu Group Security. He ran Team Black before Baek Junwoo was hired. He was fiercely loyal to Jin Xiako. He retired long before the coup because Junwoo maneuvered him out. He was still in Seoul, holding on to old promises. He looked across the lobby and locked eyes with the grandson. The face of the old warrior broke open. He had not seen the boy since he was 5. The boy used to nap on his lap during board meetings. Guang-Su swallowed once. His voice was rough. He called him young master. Vendetta nodded but did not trust his voice. Guang-Su spun a revolver on his finger. He wore a small, tight grin. He told them to get to the van. He said he had this handled. Every remaining guard in the lobby refocused on him. They knew exactly who he was. He was a legend. He became the biggest target in the room by choice. Team Black hustled Vendetta into the van. Ozra climbed behind the wheel. 2 more Team Black members leaped in. One of them was bleeding badly from the leg. The last thing the hero saw was Guang-Su alone in a lobby of 200 rifles. He cocked both revolvers and planted his feet. Guang-Su smiled like a man who waited 17 years for this fight. The van squealed out through the shattered doors. It drove up the parking garage ramp. Gunfire erupted behind them. The lobby lit up like a strobe light. Then there was a pause. More gunfire followed. There were screams that did not belong to Guang-Su. Vendetta gripped the seat back until the plastic cracked. He wanted to turn around. He wanted to fight beside the old man. But Ozra was already peeling out at 80 miles per hour. She had 2 wounded guards in the back. If he turned around now, everybody would die. Sometimes leadership just meant eating a heavy debt. He ate it. The van roared into daylight on the streets of Seoul. Gray was on the communications already. He told Ozra he had a safe house 2 miles east. Aunt Nana was prepping the back room. He told them to move. Ozra wove through traffic. Vendetta leaned his head back against the seat. He closed his eyes for exactly 3 seconds. Then he opened them. His job was not done. Baek Junwoo was still up on the 11th floor. He was not on the 81st floor anymore. Our guy noticed something as they escaped. Team Black cracked the private security lockup of Junwoo on floor 11 while descending. This was where the betrayer kept his training room. That is where Junwoo would retreat now. Junwoo would wait for him there. He was a man of ritual. Junwoo would not chase. He would make our hero come to him. He wanted to fight on his own ground and in his own temple. Vendetta told Ozra to turn around. She called him young master in a questioning tone. He told her to drop him a block away. He ordered her to get the others to Aunt Nana. That was an official order. She wanted to argue but saw his face. She did not. The van performed a U-turn. It dropped him in an alley 2 blocks from Chiangu Tower. Ozra gripped his forearm and told him to come back. He nodded but did not promise. She peeled away. Vendetta walked back toward the tower. The lobby was empty now. The guards were gone. Guang-Su was gone. There was blood everywhere but no bodies. Baek Junwoo already had his people clean up. The lobby was being mopped in real time. Discreet cleaning staff in gray uniforms worked around bullet holes. Corporate reputation had to be preserved. He walked past the cleaners like they were furniture. They did not stop him. Baek Junwoo had told them not to. This was between the 2 of them now. The elevator went up to floor 11. The doors opened onto a wide-open training floor. There were mats and wooden dummies. Weapon racks lined the walls. Massive windows overlooked Seoul at sunset. Orange light poured across everything. In the middle, Baek Junwoo sat alone on a low wooden stool. 2 longswords were laid flat across his knees. He was waiting. He looked up when Vendetta entered. He gave a small polite bow of his head as if to appear. He thanked the young master for coming. Vendetta walked forward slowly with his blades out. Junwoo began to tell him a story. Junwoo tells Vendetta about his little sister. She was his only family and a student. This happened 20 years ago, before he ever worked for Chiangu. Junwoo tells him about a fire that swept through her school dormitory. She died in that fire. Junwoo was on shift as a young beat officer that night. He was too far to reach her in time. He tells Vendetta that the fire was arson. It was set to cover up a chemical dumping scandal. A certain small chemical firm wanted to bury the evidence. Junwoo explains that the firm was later absorbed by Chiangu Group. When he took the security job there, he did it for a specific reason. He did not love the company. He swore he would keep this monstrous corporation stable and useful forever. Junwoo hoped to steer it toward one useful thing before he died. Perhaps then her death would mean something. Junwoo also mentions the day Jin Chong ordered the yacht hit. He did nothing to stop it because he calculated the cost. He viewed the situation as a choice between a coup or civil war. He chose stability over freedom. He knew a child would die, and he let it happen. Then he looks up with gray eyes and an old face. Junwoo says he spent 17 years hoping Vendetta would come for him. He asks Vendetta to make it count. Vendetta says nothing and just walks forward. They meet in the center of the training floor. Both longswords come up. Junwoo is fast. His speed as an old man is on a whole other level. Every motion is efficient. Every strike comes from decades of muscle memory. During the first exchange, Vendetta actually gives ground. In the second exchange, our hero blocks with both knives crossed. His wrist bones creak under the pressure. Junwoo is stronger than any opponent so far. Junwoo is not fast like Jerome, but he is strong and precise. Vendetta remembers something Guangsu taught him during the escape briefing. He remembers the weapon break technique. This is an old family martial art. Chiangu security used to train in this style. If a person strikes a blade at exactly the right angle on its bevel, the blade will shatter. Guangsu tested it on him during a scuffle years ago. He shattered the blade with a single strike. Vendetta watches for Junwoo to give him that angle. During the third exchange, Vendetta throws his offhand knife at Junwoo's face. This forces Junwoo to parry with the left longsword. As soon as Junwoo blocks, Vendetta strikes. He hits the bevel of the left longsword with the right knife. The angle and force are perfect. The blade cracks. Junwoo's eyes widen at the sight. That technique has been dead for 20 years. Junwoo believes nobody outside his generation should know it. In the fourth exchange, Junwoo drops the shattered longsword. He comes at Vendetta with the right one only. He fights just as hard with one blade. However, Junwoo is now defensive. He guards his right side carefully. He cannot afford to lose the second sword. Vendetta feints for the right blade and Junwoo bites on the move. This is exactly what Vendetta wanted. Vendetta does something crazy and unexpected. He deliberately loses his own right knife. He simply lets go of the hilt. The weapon drops from his hand. Junwoo assumes it is a disarm. Junwoo grins slightly and thinks the boy fumbled. He steps in for a killing thrust with the longsword. The knife falls exactly 6 inches. It lands right into the palm of Vendetta's left hand. Vendetta has crossed his hand under his own body in a spin. He rehearsed this 1,000 times in a Salerno training courtyard. His left hand catches the falling blade in a reverse grip. His whole body spins. His left arm crosses his body in a slash. Junwoo never sees it coming. He is already committed to a killing thrust with the right longsword. The slash meets Junwoo's neck. It is a clean hit. Everything stops for one long second. Junwoo stands there with his eyes open. The longsword is frozen mid-thrust. Then his head slides off his shoulders. It rolls across the polished training floor. The head stops at the edge of the mat. It lies face up with the eyes still open. For one instant, the gray old eyes go soft. It looks like relief. He is like a man who finally laid down a debt. Vendetta lowers his blade and breathes out a long, slow breath. Sunset pours in through the tower windows. The light turns the whole training floor gold. The ultimate betrayer of the family is on the floor. This is the tower his family built. 17 years are finally paid. Vendetta walks over and kneels. He closes the eyes of Junwoo with 2 fingers. Even monsters deserve that much respect. Vendetta stands up. He pockets a small photo found in Junwoo's coat. It shows a girl in a school uniform. She is 12 years old and smiling. He puts it in his inside pocket because it matters. He walks out of the tower into the sunset. 2 knives are at his hips. One more heavy silence rests in his chest. By the time he reaches the street, sirens are wailing. Night has fallen when he reaches the restaurant of Aunt Nana. Yunsori and Huyong are alive. Team Black is patched up. Aunt Nana feeds him stew and does not ask about the blood. Gray runs to hug him and then plays it off with a fist bump. Azra pulls him aside with a tight face. She tells him that Guangsu is barely alive. Team Black pulled him out of the lobby. He took down 80 guards before they reached him. He is not just wounded, he was poisoned. Someone used a slow-acting neurotoxin. Someone on the extraction team dosed him during the rescue. They trusted this person. It was his own apprentice, a young swordsman called Hyunbin. He was nameless in the ranks. He trained under Guangsu personally for 6 years. He worked for Chiangu the whole time. Guangsu is currently in a coma at a safe house. Aunt Nana is keeping him alive with an improvised drip. Every hour he loses a little more. Vendetta stares at the wall for a long moment. He lifts his head and asks where Hyunbin is now. Azra pulls up a phone and shows a signal ping. Nameless is inside an executive tower across the city. He is riding an elevator alone. Vendetta pockets a fresh blade and nods. He turns back toward the door and goes out into the night. 20 minutes later, he reaches the sky blue tower. The building is 50 stories of black glass. It stands on the east side of Seoul. Vendetta walks through the ground floor lobby in a delivery uniform. He swapped clothes 2 blocks away. He carries a clipboard in one hand. Nothing looks suspicious. The guard barely looks up. He rides the elevator up alone and presses floor 37. This is where the ping puts Hyunbin. This is a private security floor for a Chiangu company. Nameless likes to work out there late at night. The doors open onto an empty hallway. Fluorescent lights buzz softly. Our hero steps out and walks toward the private gym. His blade is already out and hidden. Halfway there, the elevator behind him dings again. He freezes and turns around. Nameless is stepping out right behind him. Nameless is a professional. He noticed the delivery uniform did not scan correctly. He tracked Vendetta up in the twin elevator. A long, thin sword is in his right hand. His left hand is empty. He stares at Vendetta with dead, flat eyes. He is barely 20 years old. His face looks like a porcelain doll. His voice is soft. He calls Vendetta the young master and acknowledges the rumors. Vendetta drops the clipboard and turns fully. Both of his blades are out. Vendetta accuses him of poisoning the oldest friend of his grandfather. Nameless tilts his head. He calls the old man soft for clinging to a dead bloodline. He claims Guangsu held the company back. That was the wrong answer. They both move. The hallway is narrow and only 10 feet wide. Fluorescent light strips buzz overhead. It is a perfect little kill box for a fight. 2 elite blades clash in a corridor barely wider than their reach. Every strike is an inch away from a killing blow. In the first exchange, Nameless goes for the throat. He is fast like a snake. Vendetta leans back just enough. The tip of the sword whispers past his jaw. He counters with a slice to the ribs. Nameless spins out and they reset. In the second exchange, Nameless is lighter. He is younger and moves as if he has no weight. His feet barely touch the tile. He darts in and out quickly. Every stab aims for a killing spot like the neck or heart. He is a surgical striker. Guangsu trained him to do exactly this. Then Black Ops trained him to do it dirty. Vendetta takes a shallow cut on his left forearm. He loses a little blood. It is not enough to slow him down. He actually grins. He has been fighting bruisers and monsters lately. A proper technical duel is almost fun. During the third exchange, Nameless throws a small dart. It comes from his empty left hand and has a poisoned tip. He palmed it from a sleeve compartment. Vendetta reads the move a half a second before the throw. He ducks the attack. The dart embeds in the wall and starts sizzling. Whatever is on it eats the drywall like acid. This tells Vendetta exactly what poison was used on Guangsu. Aunt Nana can now work on an antidote. Vendetta decides to extract the information and then take his head. In the fourth exchange, he stops playing defensive. He steps into the range Nameless does not want. He moves inside the sword arc. Twin knives spin as he gets close and personal. Nameless has to backpedal. He hits the elevator doors and fumbles for the button. The elevator dings open and he falls in. Vendetta follows him inside. Now they are both in an elevator. It is only 6 by 6 feet. The doors close and the numbers begin dropping. Nameless snarls and tries to lunge. However, there is no room to swing a sword. It was a big mistake to pick that space. Our hero fights much better in tight quarters. He grabs the wrist holding the sword. He slams it against the elevator wall. Nameless keeps his grip. He twists the blade around and stabs down at the foot of Vendetta. Our hero shifts his boot half an inch. The sword tip drives into the floor. Nameless yanks up on the weapon. While the sword is stuck, Vendetta twists the wrist at a wrong angle. A snap rings out. Nameless screams as his wrist breaks. The sword drops, but the young man is still fast. His good hand is already coming up. He is palming another dart to jab into the neck of Vendetta. Vendetta catches that wrist too. He redirects the arc of the dart a few inches. The dart goes straight into the throat of Nameless. Nameless freezes. The elevator dings at the ground floor. The doors open and Nameless stumbles out. He holds his hand to his neck. The poison is already burning through him. He staggers 3 steps across the marble floor and falls to his knees. He looks up at Vendetta. He does not beg for his life. He just looks up and laughs with blood on his lips. He tells Vendetta that he cannot save the old man. He says Guangsu has half a day left. Vendetta crouches and speaks softly. He tells Nameless to reveal the antidote quickly. He needs it before the poison in his neck finishes him. Nameless smiles. He says that the master trusted him. That trust makes him a masterpiece. He refuses to undo his work now. His eyes glass over. Vendetta studies him for a second. He does something unexpected. He reaches into the coat of Nameless and pulls out a notebook. It is a slim leather notebook for personal training. It contains every mission and every chemical Nameless ever tested. It lists every dosage. Nameless kept notes because he was meticulous. Somewhere in these pages is a formula. Our hero pockets the notebook. He stands up and looks at the dying apprentice. He remembers Guangsu in a coma. He remembers him standing in a lobby. Guangsu had 2 revolvers, so this boy could ride the elevator down. Vendetta does not finish Nameless. He spares him out of respect for Guangsu. Guangsu clearly loved this student. Vendetta wants to look Guangsu in the eye later. He wants to say the student got what he deserved without admitting to the kill. He drops a business card next to the body. It is the business card of Baek Junwoo. Vendetta lifted it from the corpse in the training room. He circles the emergency medical hotline in blood. Then he walks out into the night. Somebody will find Nameless. Somebody will call the hotline. Somebody will probably even save him. Our guy did not want to be the one to end that story. He tosses the notebook to Gray in the car outside. He tells him to drive. Gray flips through the notebook while Azra pilots them home. He whistles in surprise. Gray notes that the notebook contains an antidote formula in Section 4. It includes a full ingredients list. He believes Aunt Nana can absolutely cook it. Vendetta lets his head fall back against the seat. He closes his eyes. They race back to Aunt Nana's place. She reviews the formula in about 30 seconds. She nods once. She starts pulling jars off the shelves like a witch stocking a broth. Azra carries the antidote into the back room. Guangsu is laid out on a cot. His gray hair is matted to his forehead. His breathing is shallow. Yunsori is holding his hand like a niece would. Aunt Nana pushes the syringe into a vein. A slow drip begins. Everyone waits. 20 minutes go by. Guangsu's breathing evens out just a little. His color comes back 1 shade. Aunt Nana declares him stable. He is not conscious yet. He is not out of the woods. But he is not dying tonight. Vendetta stands in the doorway of the back room. He watches the old man breathe for a long minute. Then he turns away. If he watches any longer, he might say something out loud. He does not want anyone else to hear his thoughts. He walks back into the main dining room. Team Black is at the tables. Gray is on his laptop. Yunsori and Huyong sit at a corner booth. Azra pours cups of tea for everyone. It looks like a normal quiet evening. Then his earpiece buzzes. Gray taps his own ear and frowns. He informs the boss that someone just knocked on the front door. Vendetta turns and walks over. He puts a hand on the door. He opens it. A woman is standing in the alley. She is in her late 30s and tall. She wears a quiet gray coat. Her long black hair is tied up. 2 small twin daggers sit at her hips. They are beautifully made and look like jewelry. Her face is calm and formal. Her eyes are very sharp. She bows to him. It is not a deep bow. It is exactly the right degree for a peer. The woman addresses him as young master. She represents the Yan household of Chiangu. She asks for 10 minutes of his time. The Yan clan is one of the 5 great powers. They are all female warriors and diplomats. Their purpose is to keep the balance between the other 4 powers. Those powers are Chiangu, Osang, the Eternal Life Sect, and Dobang. The Yan sit in the middle and hold the ropes even. If a piece is missing, the balance falls over. Right now, something is very missing from that balance. Vendetta lets her inside. Aunt Nana pours another cup of tea. The Yan diplomat sits at the corner table. She sips her tea politely. Then she puts the cup down and speaks flat and quick. Her name is Sohee. She is a mid-ranking Yan councilwoman. She is here about her superior. A high-ranking representative named Harin Yan is missing. Harin has been missing for 4 days. She was kidnapped. Through expensive tracking magic, the Yan know exactly where she is located. She is inside a nuclear submarine. It is a decommissioned Korean Navy sub. It was sold off a decade ago and vanished into the private market. The vessel is currently sitting somewhere off the southern coast. Harin is chained to a wall inside the former officer's quarters. Roughly 100 armed men guard her. A specialist unit is also there. The Yan cannot identify this unit. The Yan want her back alive. They have been quietly building a strike team for 4 days. Their team is competent but not sufficient. A submarine is a very specific problem. They cannot ask the Osang for help. The Osang are politically compromised with Chiangu right now. They cannot ask Dobong due to their debts with Chiangu. So they are asking him. Vendetta has already knocked out an entire Chiangu directorate. He decapitated their head of security. He also destroyed a legendary drone swarm in 1 week. The Yan believe he is capable of pulling this off. If he succeeds, the Yan household will owe him. They will offer unlimited diplomatic, military, and financial support. He can ask for whatever he needs. So he places a small wooden token on the table. It bears the Yan family crest. This is a promissory note the size of a country. She tells him that he has 13 days. After that, the trail will be gone. Vendetta looks at the token. He looks at her. He nods and agrees to the deal. She bows once and stands up. She walks out into the night without another word. The Yan are known for being efficient like that. Gray watches her leave. He remarks that the Yan clan just handed them a huge opportunity. He thinks the situation is insane. Vendetta pockets the token. He notes that the deal is not free. They must actually find the submarine. This means they need better shipping intel. They need to work with someone who moves things through Korean waters. This requires an appointment with the Osang. The meeting happens the very next afternoon. It is in a private cigar lounge on the top floor of an expensive hotel. Duchil Park is waiting there. He has a glass of amber whiskey. A 50-year-old cigar burns in a crystal ashtray. He does not stand up. He gestures at the seat. Vendetta sits down. Cheon Heeman is standing behind Duchil Park. He has purple hair and cool eyes. He nods once at the visitor. They share a moment of mutual respect. Both men know the other could kill them under different circumstances. Duchil Park sips his whiskey and speaks first. He addresses his guest as Young Master. He claims to know why the Young Master is there. He suspects the goal is submarines or shipping routes. Vendetta says nothing and simply tilts his head. Duchil Park continues speaking. He says the visitor is interrupting a nice, quiet corporate war. Jin Chong offered him shipping routes. Now, a boardroom meeting has been turned into a war zone. Duchil Park makes a proposal. He wants the Young Master to work for the Osang. He wants him to take the head of the rival leader. In exchange, Duchil keeps the shipping routes. The Young Master would get the Chiangu chairmanship. Duchil Park waits for an answer. Vendetta considers his answer for exactly 2 seconds. He leans forward and says no. The room gets very quiet. Heeman shifts his weight 1 inch. Saying no to Duchil Park in his own lounge is dangerous. Vendetta continues in a casual voice. He is not disrespectful. He is just plain. He says his grandfather did not build the Chiangu Group for others. He will not hand it over once he gets it back. If he takes the rival's head, he does it for his family. He does not need anyone standing behind him. He pauses and takes a sip of water. He says he needs information. He is willing to pay handsomely for it. Duchil Park raises one eyebrow. He is amused rather than offended. He respects a refusal delivered with steel. This is the language the Osang understand. He asks what information is needed. Vendetta asks about the private shipping fleet. He wants to know about the weapons offload from the Chinese supplier next week. Duchil Park sets his cigar down. This is a big ask. That knowledge could ruin a major supplier chain. It is dangerous information to possess. He considers the man asking. He knows this man just decapitated Baek Junu. Duchil considered Baek to be functionally unkillable. He decides a favor from Vendetta is worth more than a favor from Jin Chong. He picks up his cigar. He blows a slow smoke ring. He says the name Oxio. Vendetta nods. That is what he needed. Oxio Port is a tiny industrial harbor 40 miles down the coast. It is officially decommissioned. Unofficially, it is a major smuggling terminal. He stands up and bows a small formal bow. Duchil Park bows back. As the visitor walks out, the mob boss adds one last thing. He warns that if the mission fails, he will take the empire. He tells the young master not to fail. Vendetta smiles without turning around. He replies that he will not fail. He walks out. Now 2 big pieces of the puzzle click together. Oxio Port is not just for weapons. It is the departure point for a private cargo submarine. Sohee from the Yan clan said the sub is off the southern coast. Their tracking magic only read nautical signatures. They did not have an address. Gray runs the numbers. He matches the Yan coordinates against the tip from Duchil Park. The submarine launched from Oxio. Harin Yan is chained inside that vessel. Jin Chong is using it as his mobile command center. He moved there after the boardroom bombing. Jin Chong pulled all his forces to Oxio and boarded the sub. He thinks a man with a knife cannot follow him there. He believes he is untouchable. He is wrong. Our guy made one phone call to Regina Salerno in Italy. Regina then called Caesar Salerno. Caesar is the international don of the Salerno family. He is one of the most powerful people alive. Caesar makes 3 phone calls to 3 heads of state. The calls are short and polite. He asks for a small favor regarding shipping. He mentions a certain Korean harbor that has been very active recently. Within 12 hours, international customs agencies flag Oxio Port. They launch a coordinated smuggling investigation. The investigation is fake, but the paperwork is real. 2 international naval vessels arrive. One is American, and the other is Italian. They park 10 miles off the coast and use their radar. Jin Chong's submarine cannot leave. It cannot surface without being tracked. It cannot resupply without being boarded. It cannot dive without being detected. Any move it makes gets logged in 3 foreign capitals. He is trapped in a metal tube under the water. He cannot leave the port. Vendetta stands on a rocky bluff overlooking Oxio Port at sunset. The wind is in his hair. His coat flares behind him. Both tactical blades are sheathed at his hips. Azra stands beside him. Yunsori and Huyong are behind him. Gray is on the communications line. Team Black is arrayed on the ridge. Their weapons are ready. A cargo van waits further back. It carries the half-recovered warrior Guangsu. Guangsu insisted on being there despite his weakness. Down in the harbor, 100 Chiangu security guards are confused. They have no targets to shoot. The cargo submarine is berthed in a hidden slip. Its snorkel is barely visible above the water. They can see the lights of the foreign naval frigates. Vendetta pulls a specific blade from his hip. It is not one of his twin tactical knives. This one is older and ceremonial. Regina Salerno gave it to him personally. The Salerno family crest is engraved into the metal handle. The same crest is carved into his hand. He holds the blade up. The sunset catches the metal. Then he speaks into his earpiece. He does not speak to anyone in Oxio Port or anyone in Seoul. He speaks to Jin Chong personally. Gray patched him into a hijacked frequency. The signal runs into the internal communications of the submarine. He asks his cousin if he can hear him. A long pause follows. Then a soft crackle comes through the line. Jin Chong finally answers. He tries to sound casual, but he fails. Jin Chong tells Vendetta that he has made a massive mess. Vendetta agrees with him. He tells his cousin to look at the horizon. There are 2 frigates out there. Those ships are not for Jin Chong. The ships are for anything that tries to leave Oxio. This includes any boat or any submarine. Vendetta says his cousin is now in a very small pond. He claims he is about to be a very big fish. Jin Chong laughs while trying to keep his composure. He claims the situation is temporary. He says his people can arrange a solution. Vendetta tells him that they cannot. Vendetta explains that this order came from Rome. It did not come from Seoul. He says Jin Chong does not have friends who can call Rome. A long silence follows. Jin Chong speaks again. His voice is no longer casual. Now he sounds small and bitter. He sounds afraid. He asks Vendetta what he wants. Vendetta looks down at the port. He looks at the snorkel of the submarine. The sunset burns red across the water. He remembers a 7-year-old boy in a life jacket. The boy floated past the body of his mother. He remembers a broken lawyer and a burning trunk full of cash. He He remembers the head of Baek Junwoo rolling across a training floor. He remembers Gwang-soo alone in a lobby with 2 revolvers. He looks at his mafia crest glinting in the light. He speaks with a voice that is no longer casual. He wants his cousin to know that he owns every hour from now on. The water above the submarine will get colder every day. He says the air will run out slowly. There is nothing to trade to make it last. Vendetta says he will come down whenever he feels like it. He might finish his dinner or his morning walk first. He will eventually open the submarine. He plans to finish what the family started 17 years ago. This will happen on his time. Every second between now and then will be a living hell. He pauses for a moment. He tells his cousin to sleep well, then he clicks off the frequency. Down below in the metal tube, Jin Chong sits in his captain's chair. He stares at a dead communication speaker. For the first time since childhood, actual fear crawls up his spine. He can hear it in that voice. The voice is patient and not in a hurry. That voice has already won the battle. He looks at his own hands and sees them shaking. He tries to laugh, but it comes out wrong. Behind him, Haran Yan is chained to the wall. She lifts her head slowly and smiles a small, tight smile. She heard the exchange between the 2 men. She has been waiting 4 days for someone to rescue her. She just heard the person who is coming. Back on the bluff, Vendetta lowers his blade. The sun is almost fully down now. Purple light spreads across the sky. Azra puts a hand on his shoulder. Yunsori exhales a long, slow breath. Huyong crosses his arms and grins. Gray is packing up his laptop. From the van, Gwang-soo calls out in a rough old voice. He tells the young master that the speech was nice. He says it was a little dramatic but still nice. Our guy actually laughs. The laugh is small and real. For the first time in 17 years, everything is in position. His enemy is trapped in a box under the water. His allies stand behind him. The old warrior who taught him is breathing again. The old woman who fed him is at home cooking more. The digital gremlin who saved him is grinning at his laptop. The street queen is holding a fistful of wire like a battle standard. Haran Yan is chained inside a submarine. She is waiting for him to come get her. There are 13 days on the clock and counting. He sheathes the ceremonial blade and turns to his people. He says it is time to go home. They will eat and they will sleep. Tomorrow they will plan the submarine raid. They start moving back toward the vehicles. The sunset is on their backs. Azra keys the van door. Yunsori helps Huyong walk because his ribs are still cracked. Gray taps something into his phone. Gwang-soo sits in the passenger seat of the van. His eyes are half closed. A small, proud smile is on his lips. He watches the young master walk toward him. Vendetta stops at the driver's door of the van. He looks back once at the port. Somewhere down there, a man who killed his family understands. He understands exactly how badly he lost. Our guy smiles very small. Then he gets into the van.